Adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 68. Sakka-Jataka. The man your mind rests on. This story was told by the master, while at Untitled, about a certain Brahmin. Tradition says that when the Lord Buddha with his disciples was entering the city of Sakka, an old Brahmin of that place, who was going out, met him in the gateway. Falling at the Buddha's feet, and clasping him by the ankles, the old man cried, "Son, is it not the duty of children to cherish the old age of their parents? Why have you not let us see you all this long time? At last I have seen you. Come, let your mother see you too." So saying, he took the master with him to his house. And there the master sat upon the seat prepared for him, with his disciples around him. Then came the Brahmin's wife, and she too fell at the feet of the Lord Buddha, crying, "My son, where have you been all this time? Is it not the duty of children to comfort their parents in their old age?" On this, she called to her sons and daughters that their brother was come, and made them salute the Buddha. And in their joy the aged pair explained great hospitality to their guests. After his meal, the master recited to the old people the sutta concerning old age. And, when he had ended, both husband and wife won fruition of the second path. Then rising up from his seat, the master went back to Untitled. Meeting together in the hall of truth, the brethren fell to talking about this thing. It was urged that the Brahmin must have been well aware that Shuddhodana was the father of Buddha, and Mahamaya was the deceased birth mother of the Buddha. Yet nonetheless, he and his wife had claimed the Buddha as their own son, and that with the master's consent. What could it all mean? Hearing their talk, the master said, "Brethren, the aged pair were right in claiming me as their son." And so saying, he told this story of the past. "Brethren, in ages past this Brahmin was my father in successive births, my uncle in a like number, and in more my grandfather. And in successive births his wife was respectively my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother. So I was brought up in births by this Brahmin, and in by his wife." And with that, having told of these births, the master, as Buddha, recited this stanza. The man your mind rests on, with whom your heart is pleased at first sight, place your trust in him. His lesson ended, the master explained the relation and identified the birth by saying, "This Brahmin and his wife were the husband and wife in all those existences, and I the child." Note. See also No. Source. Adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 69. Vishwakarma. May shame. This story was told by the master while at Jetavana monastery about Sariputra, the captain of the faith. Tradition says that in the days when the elder monk used to eat meal cakes, folks came to the monastery with a quantity of such cakes for the brotherhood. After the brethren had all eaten their fill, much remained over. And the givers said, "Sirs, take some for those two who are away in the village." Just then a youth who was the elder monk's co-resident, was away in the village. For him a portion was taken. But, as he did not return, and it was felt that it was getting very late, this portion was given to the elder monk. When this portion had been eaten by the elder monk, the youth came in. Accordingly, the elder monk explained the case to him, saying, "Sir, I have eaten the cake set apart for you." "Ah," was the rejoinder, "we have all of us got a sweet tooth." The great elder monk was much troubled. From this day forward, he exclaimed, "I vow never to eat meal cakes again." And from that day forward, so tradition says, the elder monk Sariputra never touched meal cakes again. This abstention became matter of common knowledge in the brotherhood, and the brethren sat talking of it in the hall of truth. Said the master, "What are you talking of, brethren, as you sit here?" When they had told him, he said, "Brethren, when Sariputra has once given anything up, he never goes back to it again, even though his life be at stake." And so saying, he told this story of the past. Once upon a time, when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares, the Bodhisattva was born into a family of doctors skilled in the cure of snake bites, and when he grew up, he practiced for a livelihood. Now it fell out that a countryman was bitten by a snake. And without delay his relatives quickly fetched the doctor. Said the Bodhisattva, "Shall I extract the venom with the usual antidotes, or have the snake caught and make it suck its own poison out of the wound?" "Have the snake caught and make it suck the poison out." So, he had the snake caught, and asked the creature, saying, "Did you bite this man?" "Yes, I did," was the answer. "Well then, suck your own poison out of the wound again." "What? Take back the poison I have once shed?" cried the snake. "I never did, and I never will." Then the doctor made a fire with wood, and said to the snake, "Either you suck the poison out, or into the fire you go. Even though the flames be my doom, I will not take back the poison I have once shed," said the snake, and repeated the following stanza. May shame be on the poison which, once shed. To save my life, I swallow down again. More welcome death than life by weakness bought. With these words, the snake moved towards the fire. But the doctor barred its way, and brought out the poison with medicinal herbs and charms, so that the man was whole again. Then he unfolded the commandments to the snake, and set it free, saying, "From now on do harm to none." And the master went on to say, "Brethren, when Sariputra has once parted with anything, he never takes it back again, even though his life be at stake." His lesson ended, he explained the relation and identified the birth by saying, "Sariputra was the snake of those days, and I the doctor." Footnotes. I.e. close unto midday, after which the food could not be eaten as per monk's rules. Source. Adapted from archaic translation by Robert Chalmers. Jataka number 70. Khuddhaka. The Conquest. This story was told by the master while at Jetavana monastery, about the elder monk named Siddhartha Sariputra. He is said to have been a youth of a good family in Sravasti city. And one day, on his way home from ploughing, he turned into the monastery. Here he received from the bowl of a certain elder monk some elegant food, rich and sweet, which made him think to himself, "Day and night I am toiling away with my hands at many tasks, yet never do I taste food so sweet. I must turn brother myself." So he joined the brotherhood, but after 6 weeks' zealous application to high thinking, fell under the dominion of lusts and off he went. His belly again proving too much for him, back he came to join the brotherhood once more, and studied the Abhidhamma. In this way, 6 times he left and came back again. But when for the 7th time he became a brother, he mastered the whole 7 books of the Abhidhamma, and by much chanting of the teaching of the brothers won discernment and attained to arhatship. Now his friends among the brethren scoffed at him, saying, "Can it be, sir, that lusts have ceased to spring up within your heart?" "Sirs," was the reply, "I have now got beyond mundane life from now on." He having thus won arhatship, talk of that arose in the hall of truth, as follows. "Sirs, though all the while he was destined to all the glories of arhatship, yet 6 times did Siddhartha Sariputra renounce the brotherhood. Truly, very wrong is the unconverted state." Returning to the hall, the master asked what they were talking about. Being told, he said, "Brethren, the worldling's heart is light and hard to curb. Material things attract and hold it fast. When once it is so held fast, it cannot be released fast. Excellent is the mastery of such a heart. Once mastered, it brings joy and happiness. It is good to tame a stubborn heart and weak, by passion swayed. Once tamed, the heart brings bliss. It was by reason of this stubborn quality of the heart, however, that, for the sake of a pretty spade which they could not bring themselves to throw away, the wise and good of past days 6 times reverted to the world out of sheer cupidity. But on the 7th occasion they won insight and subdued their cupidity. And so saying, he told this story of the past. Once upon a time when Brahmadatta was reigning in Benares, the Bodhisattva came to life again as a gardener, and grew up. Spade Sage was his name. With his spade he cleared a patch of ground, and grew pot herbs, pumpkins, gourds, cucumbers, and other vegetables, by the sale of which he made a sorry living. For, except only that one spade, he had nothing in the world. Resolving one day to give up the world for the religious life, he hid his spade away, and became a hermit. But thoughts of that spade rose in his heart and the passion of greed overcame him, so that for the sake of his blunt spade he reverted to the world. Again and again this happened. 6 times did he hide the spade and become a hermit, only to renounce his vows again. But the 7th time he thought how that blunt spade had caused him again and again to backslide. And he made up his mind to throw it into a great river before he became a hermit again. So he carried the spade to the riverside. And, fearing else if he saw where it fell, he should come back and fish it out again, he whirled the spade thrice round his head by the handle and threw it with the strength of an elephant right into midstream, shutting his eyes tight as he did so. Then loud rang his shout of delight, a shout like a lion's roar, "I have conquered! I have conquered!" Now just at that moment the king of Benares, on his way home from subduing disorder on the border, had been bathing in that very river, and was riding along in all his splendor on the back of his elephant, when he heard the Bodhisattva's shout of triumph. "Here's a man," said the king, "who is proclaiming that he has conquered. I wonder whom he has conquered. Go, bring him before me." So the Bodhisattva was brought before the king, who said to him, "My good man, I am a conqueror myself. I have just won a battle and am on my way home victorious. Tell me whom you have conquered." "Sire," said the Bodhisattva, 1,000, yes, 100,000, such victories as yours are vain, if you have not the victory over the lusts within yourself. It is by conquering greed within myself that I have conquered my lusts." And as he spoke, he gazed upon the great river, and by duly concentrating all his mind upon the idea of water, won insight. Then by virtue of his newly won transcendental powers, he rose in the air, and, seated there, instructed the king in the truth in this stanza. The conquest that by further victories must be upheld, or own defeat at last, is vain. True conquest lasts for always. Even as he listened to the truth, light shone in on the king's darkness, and the lusts of his heart were quenched. His heart was bent on renouncing the world. Then and there the lust for royal dominion passed away from him. "And where will you go now?" said the king to the Bodhisattva. "To the Himalayas, sire. There to live the hermit's life." "Then I, too, will become an hermit," said the king. And he departed with the Bodhisattva. And with the king there departed also the whole army, all the Brahmins and householders and all the common folk, in a word, all the assemblage that was gathered there. News came to Benares that their king, on hearing the truth preached by the spade sage, was gladly to live the hermit's life and had gone on with all his assemblage. "And what shall we do here?" cried the folk of Benares. And upon that, from out that city which was 12 leagues about, all the inhabitants went on, a path 12 leagues long, with whom the Bodhisattva passed to the Himalayas. Then the throne of Sakka, king of devas, became hot beneath him. Looking out, he saw that the spade sage was engaged upon a great renunciation. Noticing the numbers of his following, Indra took thought how to house them all. And he sent for Vishwakarma, the architect of the devas, and spoke thus: "The spade sage is engaged upon a great renunciation, and quarters must be found for him. Go you to the Himalayas, and there on level ground fashion by divine power a hermit's property 30 leagues long and 15 broad." "It shall be done, sire," said Vishwakarma. And away he went, and did what he was asked. What follows is only a summary. The full details will be given in the Hatthipala-jataka, which forms one narrative with this. Vishwakarma caused a hermitage to arise in the hermit's property. Drove away all the noisy beasts and birds and fairies. And made in each cardinal direction a path just broad enough for one person to pass along it at a time. This done, he took himself to his own dwelling. The spade sage with his assemblage of people came to the Himalayas and entered the property which Indra had given and took possession of the house and furniture which Vishwakarma had created for the hermits. First of all, he renounced the world himself, and afterwards made the people renounce it. Then he portioned out the property among them. They abandoned all their power of governing, which rivaled that of Sakka himself. And the whole 30 leagues of the property were filled. By due performance of all the other rites that lead to insight, the spade sage developed perfect goodwill within himself, and taught the people how to meditate. By this they all won the attainments, and assured their entry thereafter into the brahma-realm, while all who served to them qualified for entry thereafter into the realm of devas. Thus, brethren, said the Master, the heart, when passion holds it fast, is hard to release. When the attributes of greed spring up within it, they are hard to chase away, and even persons so wise and good as the above are by that rendered witless. His lesson ended, he preached the truths, at the close of which some won the first, some the second, and some the third path, while others again attained to arhatship. Further, the Master explained the relation and identified the birth by saying, Ananda was the king of those days, the Buddha's followers were the followers, and I myself the spade sage.